Boston gets a huge win over the Clippers yesterday in the afternoon, a game they basically controlled throughout. They lost control at various points because their bench units were bad. Anthony Simons had his worst game of the season. He put up a bagel. They were struggling to guard with those units. And then James Harden made it closer than it looked or made it look closer than it actually was at the tail end of the game by drawing a foul on a three and then hitting a couple of crazy pull-up threes. And actually a really nice play design by Ty Lue on a baseline out of bounds where they heave the ball up the court to the foul line and then pitch it back to Harden, kind of trailing the play. And he actually got a good look at three that could have tied the game, just barely left it short. So a couple of weird sequences with the bench unit. And then obviously with James Harden that made it look close. But honestly, the starting group for Boston dominated that game from start to finish. They jumped out the gates early. Jaylen Brown was super athletic on the glass and scrapping for loose balls. The team was very locked in on defense. They were defending James Harden well. Jordan Walsh did a bunch of work on the ball. Derek White did some work on the ball. Peyton Pritchard had 30 in the game and came out guns blazing, was a huge part of how they took control early in the game. And I need a shout out Jaylen Brown here. We talked after their loss to Philly about how I thought he needed to be part of the solution for their defensive rebounding issues. He's one of the best athletes on the team. He was having one of his worst defensive rebounding seasons in recent history for him. He's been excellent. 19 rebounds over the course of the last two games. He grabbed 13 rebounds yesterday, was clearly scrapping in a different way from the opening tip. We talked about this in that video the other day, but like he's one of the few guys on that team that actually has the tools necessary to address that flaw for this team. And so him stepping up and taking personal responsibility. I found out after the video too that Jaylen Brown had actually said in the post-game presser that he had essentially taken responsibility for what happened on that final sequence. He also had 33 points yesterday. He's become one of the best mid-range players in the NBA. He's hit 49 pull-up mid-rangers this year at 55%. That's the same amount of volume 49 makes as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but on 5% higher from the field. So some really high level shot making from Jaylen Brown. And we talked about how in the Philly game, that third quarter run from Derek White was a sign that he was starting to gain some momentum and rhythm as a scorer. There's a lot of talk early in the season about how this is what happens when you slide up on the depth chart. Like teams are going to be game planning differently for Derek White. I never bought that just simply because Derek White was still very much a featured ball handler on the Celtics before the Tatum injury. Like I'd argue he was more involved in their pet actions alongside Jason Tatum than even Jaylen Brown was. So like I never bought that. I just thought he was playing bad basketball to start the year. Not even, he was struggling a little bit to start the year, which is like something that happens with basketball players sometimes. But following up that Philly game, 42 points in the last two games, 13 for 28 from the field, 7 for 14 from three in the two wins. So a continuation of that momentum for Derek White, starting to look like the Derek White that we've seen in the last couple of years. And most importantly, they won a clutch game. It was a 3-point game with 3 minutes left, and the Celtics just promptly went on a 7-0 run to close the deal. Excellent defense in that stretch from Nimi Keita. He had 2 good drop coverage reps where he forced misses at the basket. He had a play where he was battling Zubats in the block, and he pushed him out with physicality so that when Zoo went for that left shoulder fade, he lost his balance a little bit and was like falling away from the basket and left it very short off the front of the rim. Really good defense from Keita. Then on the other end of the floor, just a little 2-man game with Derek White and Nimi Keita, a little drop off for a layup for Keita, Jordan Walsh transition run out. Derek White then hits the dagger, a little pull up three at the top of the key as his man kind of sagged off just a little bit. Really nice clutch play from the Celtics. Again, a crazy shooting display from James Harden, all good defense. Kind of an iffy 3-point shot foul that could have gone either way. And then he just hit 2 ridiculous step backs. So you got to tip the cap to James Harden. But I actually just thought they played really good crunch time basketball. Really nice response from the Celtics in a couple of key areas where they needed to improve. Their rebounding and their execution in the crunch time situations. And they end up getting a couple of wins out of it.